Okay, so I wanted to bring up this documentary that I watched on Amazon Prime. Now, this is total film geek material right here. So, this is going to be catnip for most of the listeners if you've never heard of it or whatever. The movie is called Trespassing Bergman. Terrible title, okay? I hate those titles. Those something Ing Bergman, whatever. I don't like those titles. But it's directed by Jane Magnuson and Heineck Paulus. And I think they do a pretty good job of it. I would have cut the movie a little differently, but here's what the movie is. Basically, what they're doing is these filmmakers have charged themselves with bringing the greatest filmmakers in the world to the island that Ingmar Bergman had his house on, the rocky, sort of desolate island that he had filmed on Persona and Shame and Hour of the Wolf on. It's a very, very stark kind of place. Perfect.
It ain't Fantasy Island.
No, it ain't Fantasy Island at all. But in this place, he built his sort of modernist house that he kept most of his life. So the filmmakers that are brought to this house, and I don't want to tell you all of them because part of the fun of the movie is like, wow, God, who's going to pop up next in this? But I'll just talk about some of the ones that they actually bring to the house to go through Bergman's book collection and video collection. It's very interesting. They bring to the house Alejandro Inarritu, Claire Denis, the French filmmaker, who almost has a nervous breakdown because she feels it's the experience of going through Bergman's personal space to be too intimate. John Landis is the one of the few American directors that makes the trip. Ang Lee, and a couple of others. I think Catano anyway. But almost every major director is interviewed here. I mean, like it is unbelievable. Yes, Scorsese, yes, Coppola, yes, Woody Allen, Lars von Trier, Ridley Scott, Takashi Kitano, Michael Haneke is another one of the ones that comes.
I gotta watch it too.
I mean, it is crazy. It is nuts, and it is a very, very great opportunity to see Bergman's space. Obviously, where he created, where he watched movies. We get to see Lars von Trier, who is typically outrageous, wax philosophically on Bergman's masturbatory habits, which I thought was kind of a strange place for this movie to go. But it is, if you're a Bergman fan, you will be doubly thrilled with it. But if you're not a Bergman fan and you're just getting into it or not into his movies yet, this might be a good primer for you. And at any rate, if you're a fan of any of these filmmakers, and I haven't even touched on half of them, then
if you're like a true Bergman acolyte, like if you're like obsessed with him, if he's your Kubrick, and because I know Kubrick fans are like this, and no other filmmaker can compare, would you watch this movie and get pissed off? Like, would you think these people aren't worthy of trampling? John Landis is not worthy of trampling through Bergman's space.
No, because you know why? I don't feel that way, and I am a person who is a major. I mean, I wouldn't hold him as high as as being someone who is unapproachable, but I am a major Bergman fan, and no, because everybody who is interviewed in this movie is a Bergman fan. They're just as big Bergman fans as I am. In fact, probably even more so. Again, to go back to Lars von Trier, Lars von Trier actually has a moment in the movie where he curses Bergman. He says, that shit. He never answered my fan letter. He never invited me to come and visit him here at the place. He says, God, that fucking bastard, but I love him. So I mean, that's how big of a fan he is, and so I can't no. Even John Landis, I'm fine with him being in there because he adores Bergman, and everybody does here. So again, the movie is called Trespassing Bergman. It was made in 2013. I'd never heard of it before. I don't know how it escaped me, but luckily it is on Amazon Prime right now. And so you can check it out if you have that service.
Kubrick wrote to Bergman, by the way, just as an aside. That letter exists.
Yeah. So I mean, that's interesting. What did he say? Do you know? What
he said? He said after you're dead, they're not going to have any respect for you. They're going to let John Landis trample through your house. All right.
Okay.
That was good, Terry.
Okay.
You're not laughing.
I'm sorry. No, I mean, you got to forgive me. I'm baffled. John Landis, and I like John Landis. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, but I mean, it's just like he's not the first. I don't know why. I just don't think of Landis and Bergman, and I know you brought that up and everything, but you got to forgive me. I'm still a little bit baffled by that.
He's good. He's good talking about movies. Actually.
Yes.
That's actually a very good point to bring up. I would like to think, but not all directors, but most film, I would like to think a majority of the film directors, especially the directors we've spoken to, obviously the well-known ones and the lesser-known ones, they all should, I think, have that passion for the art form. I think when they don't, I think that reflects in their work, too.
It does.
So it's good. I think that's something, obviously that you have someone like a Scorsese or Tarantino, but you also, there are more, everyone that we've talked about on the show, Spike Lee, Woody Allen's another one, they love movies, and it shows in their work, whether they're making a reference or to another film, an homage, if you will. But so it's just don't Landis, unfortunately, it's not. I don't know if ignorance is the right word on my part, but it's not the first name that comes up when I think of someone to be in a Bergman documentary. But that's good. That's a better documentary.
Well, Landis definitely has a love of cinema. Safety precautions be damned. So good on him.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for something to come up like that. God damn you, DeVal.
Yeah. I'm fine with, I still have a lot of affection for Landis. And in fact, I'll tell you one thing. John Landis, you look at those early movies from Kentucky Fried Movie onto probably, a little bit after the Twilight Zone thing. All of those movies, and even the ones after, to a certain extent, but in that golden period from 77 to maybe 83, those movies that he made in that period have such a distinct vibe about them. They are directed very solidly. You can watch 5 seconds of them and tell that they came from the same director. The editing style, the pacing, the acting style, the arch kind of dialogue, everything about them, the use of music, all of that stuff is very, very is very, very distinctive. He really, if it hadn't been for that event, for that stupid movie, he would have continued to be a great comedy director. You know, I mean, and even, you know, I mean, and that's saying that. I know that there's other things like Three Amigos and, you know, Innocent Blood and Coming to America.
I like Spies Like Us and Coming to America a lot. I mean, I love those.
I don't care for Spies Like Us or Into the Night, but those are all very, very good movies too that almost rise to the level of his previous work in that golden period I was talking about. So I'm totally for considering, despite the fact that he fucked up and he didn't do his due diligence in that thing and whatever, he suffered because of that. He's not dead like those like the people that are dead now, but it definitely did. It did affect
those concessions coming.
Wow, that's.
It did affect his career.
In spite of his avarice leading to two children getting cut in half.
Well, you know, I mean, I don't know all the details of it. I haven't read any books about it or anything like that. I don't know what he did or didn't do in order to prevent that or not prevent that thing from happening.
Yeah.
I'm not even quite sure it's his fault. He could have been pressured by the company to do things quicker.
You need to read about it. You need to read about it.
Okay, but but
if you want to know, it's out there. There's a great book that was written 30 years ago about it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's a book out there about it. I'm just, you know, for me, you know, again, if I'm gonna ignore the some things that, you know, Polanski did because, you know, I like his work. I'm judging the work alone. That's all. not judging. You know how he. You know, that's all I'm doing. And so on the work alone, Landis is one of the greats, especially in terms of comedy. Oh, and we even forgot. You know, American Werewolf. American Werewolf in London. Oh. That's in that period, you know.
You're talking about though. That was in the period that you're talking
Blues
about.
Brothers, Animal House, just.
But those are all in the period. What I like, the thing that I like that he does, I always like the way he ended the movies with the credits and everyone who's in the movie and showing everyone who was in it. I always love that. That's one of my favorite trademarks of his movie.
That is fun. It's fun. He's another director too that like. That uses the same font for his credits in every movie. That say, you know, like Woody Allen uses that font for his credits, and you know, so he's a font director. He's one of those directors. I don't know. It's just a little geeky sort of a side thing, but.